Celeb Savant is a career retrospective type interview focusing on singers, actors, and industry experts. Join Barrett Edelstein now as he dives into the entertainment world.
British Bruno Tilley is a renowned creative director, designer, music video director and writer with over 4 decades shaping iconic visuals across music, film and animation. After graduating from St. Martin's School of Art in 1979, Bruno joined Island Records the following year as an in-house designer. Over the next decade, he rose to creative director and board member, establishing the label's first in-house art and video department. At Island, Bruno created award-winning campaigns for artists including U2, Grace Jones, Aswad, Robert Palmer, Eric B. and Rakim, Kid Creole, Run DMC, Mika Paris, and most notably Bob Marley. During this period, he directed more than 50 music videos. In the 1990s, Bruno co-founded Mainline Productions and later became a consultant creative director at Manga Entertainment, where he designed the company's brand identity and posters for landmark anime titles such as Ghost in the Shell. He also directed more than 50 television commercials for Telstar Records. His later work expanded into art direction for CGI animation series, including projects for FIFA and packaging for a number of record labels, most recently Rhino Records or Universal's Jazz Catalog. While continuing to work across film design and image making, Bruno has increasingly focused on writing. He has co-authored several screenplays with multiple projects in development and is currently adapting one of his own film scripts into a novel. Up next on Celeb Savant, we've got Bruno Tilley. Where in the world are you and how are you doing?
I'm based in the UK and I'm doing fine.
Now, Bruno, I'm very fascinated. I know it's a multi-decade journey and story. Let's start at the beginning. At what age, whether you were as a child or teenager, were you fascinated about this entertainment, visual arts, this world, and how did that journey progress?
Well, basically, I mean, my father was a successful designer, illustrator back in the sort of 60s and 70s. So I was kind of brought up around it in a sense. So it just all felt quite normal to see artwork being created and then stuck on posters all around London or wherever, campaigns. So I was kind of brought up all around it. I used to kind of earn extra money, pocket money, working in the studio because back in the day, everything was done by hand. So all the artwork was created by hand in the studio with overlays and whatever. It's completely different to now. So I don't know. I just guess it was kind of passed down. My father passed the baton down, and I just kind of worked my way up in the studio, so actually becoming quite good at producing artwork, making artwork. Really, I didn't have any particular aspiration at the time to get into the arts, but it was just something I did.
And then how did that lead into the music and entertainment world?
I went to a school it was a pretty tough school. And I mean, it was more survival school. I left as soon as I could. And then it was a case of what am I going to do? So I actually got a job working in my father was represented by an illustration agency, a bit like the sort of Mad Men days. And I got a job there as a runner. I used to collect artwork, deliver them to clients, and I'd get to meet all these different illustrators, and some of them were quite incredible artists. So, and then it kind of made me feel, I wouldn't mind doing this. This could be good. So I actually ended up going to an art college, which my parents funded initially. I produced a portfolio of work, and then from there, decided I really wanted to get into it seriously, and I ended up going to a proper art college like St. Martin's School of Art. And really from there, I decided I wanted to produce record covers. My whole portfolio, my whole degree show was based around album sleeves. I kind of redesigned all my favorite albums covers. So it just kind of evolved naturally in a sense.
Having been in the industry for a number of years, number of decades, how have you seen the evolvement of an album cover or artwork? Is it as important today as it was back then? That image, that design, that story for that artwork? What are your observations over the changes of the decades?
I was very fortunate to get a job at Island Records in 1980 after I'd left art college. And it was really important back then, the record sleeve. It was everything, really. I mean, up until that point, I always loved the album covers myself, so, I mean, I think everyone did. It was part of the whole experience of buying an album, a vinyl album, and then you look at the cover and really sort of take it. So it was all part of it. So it was very important back in the day. I think it changed when CDs came in, really. I remember when they came into the office and showed us the new format, which was and they held up this tiny little square and said, that's it. That's the new format. And I thought, I kind of felt it was all over at that point, because all you could really do for marketing was sort of, you stick a headshot on, and that's it kind of thing. But it was much more creative back in the day. Album covers really kind of were special, but it's all about marketing now, really, I guess, and how you promote the artist. Vinyls come back, fortunately. So I find that a lot of the album covers I do now, or whatever I'm asked to work with a band, we inevitably doing out of vinyl cover. So it's nice to have it back. The last cover I designed, I put a campaign together for the band UB40, and I created a kind of new brand for them, a sort of logo design, and that became the team behind it. They've got it as a backdrop, animated. It's we've done T-shirts from it. It's been used in the design lends itself very well to kind of being projected. It's got multi-use. So they do TV show. Whenever they do TV interviews, I noticed they've got this graphic running right across the backgrounds. I've never had an album cover used so much, in a sense. That's the way it is nowadays.
Is it a case-by-case situation? But how much input do you have with the album cover? Do they brief you, the artist or the record label? What is the process of creating it? Or is it a case-by-case situation? Each one's different?
Yeah, it's very different. Each one's different. When I was at Island Records, I had a whole team of people there, and we did an incredible amount of work. I mean, but every week we'd have quite a few projects. So it was all about deadlines, hitting deadlines, because back in the day, artwork was created physically before computers, and we used to so I'd be working on 3 or 4 acts at the same time. Some would get really involved in the concepts, some wouldn't. Some of them we'd have to do everything from style the band to do photo sessions. We'd film them. I preferred working with bands that had some sort of idea of what they wanted to do, because otherwise it's very open, It's too open in a sense, It's nice to have a band who've got ideas of who they are and what they're trying to project, and then it's up to us to interpret that, or me to interpret it and visualize it.
How did you get into the production and direction of music videos?
I was doing making jazz covers, and I was doing so many still shoots, basically. I wanted to sort of experiment with it, and I figured, setting up this whole shoot and everything and building sets, I brought a Super 8 camera down and started filming the session. And I did this particularly with the jazz artists, because they wouldn't have had videos made for them. But so there's artists like Courtney Pine and Jazz Warriors, Andy Shepherd, and all these kind of really cool jazz musicians. So at the same time I was doing a photo session with them, I'd actually film it. And then we had a little video room editing suite at Island, and I went in and edited these clips together and put them to the jazz video, and that was it. I was making jazz videos. And they were quite cool, because they were like, no one had briefed me or anything to do it. I just did them. And then the first video I got to direct properly was actually Bob Marley's Buffalo Soldier. The people at Island liked what I was producing, and I remember the manager, a very nice guy called Dave Domlio, came in and just said, would you like to do this video? So I pitched for it. I didn't have to write a pitch. And they gave me the job. And that was, a story about my brother. And my brother also worked in the film industry in special effects. So I asked my brother to help me, and he kind of showed me, we storyboarded the whole thing out and did it properly. And basically went down to Black Park, which is where they used to shoot a lot of kind of horror films, and filmed it. A nice thing about that was the chap that gave me the job in the first place at the end of it. I hadn't been long out of art college really, so I wasn't really earning a lot of money. He gave me an envelope at the end, and I opened it up, and it had £300 in it. And I was thinking, this was incredible, because I was happy doing it just for the job. And then from then on, I got the bug. As I said, I was setting up photo shoots. We were doing photo shoots every week, pretty much. So it made sense to kind of film. The unique thing about Island Records was that I set up an in-house art department. We used to kind of create an album cover with a single cover. The video would tie in with that imagery-wise, and posters and all the campaigns. We put these proper campaigns together, whereas a lot of the other record labels were quite disjointed. They'd get one person to direct the video, someone else to design the record cover. They'd scramble a campaign around it. The overall theme was, it was one theme, and it really worked very well. So it was proper campaigns. Island Records was incredible because the range of music there, there was everything from the B-52s to Bob Marley to U2 to African music, jazz. So for me, it was like a dream come true. I could create images for all of these. They kind of valued the art in a sense there. So they didn't actually ever really impose a budget on me to do any of that. That changed when they sold the company. But for many, many years, it was just do what was right. So that way I could go out and start, not that we went crazy with it, but we'd do what was required, get clothes made or bought, or yes, everything that was needed to create the image without really restricting ourselves too much.
Maybe it's changed over time, but for a person who's watching an end result of a music video, to get to that end result, how long does it take? What are the steps? The overall feel? Because obviously it's 2-3 minutes. They think, quick. I do understand from speaking to a lot of artists that the actual filming part is maybe a day or 2 or 3 days, depending on the different storyboards, etc., etc. But from concept to end, how long does it take, and what are the different steps to achieve that?
Well, the way I used to do it anyway was quite a process. It was, you do get thrown stuff. I've made videos where I've been told in the morning, the band's flying in this afternoon, can you shoot something? And it's like a scramble to do it. I did that for Paid in Full by Eric B. and Rakim. I wanted to use graphics in that. So that was one of the first videos that actually used words in it. If the process really, firstly, talk to the artists, then I used to kind of work out the concept for it, storyboard it, find the locations, put everything together, build sets or whatever is required. Film it, as you said, over a couple of days, or one day. Quite often we only had one day to do the shoots. Unless we went on location somewhere where we'd have several days generally. That was my favorite, traveling somewhere new and interesting, which would require finding locations normally a few days before going around, whether it was Hawaii, Morocco or whatever. Film it over a day if you were on location a few days, and then I'd use a good editor, and that was quite tough. I'd say it takes about 3 days to edit something, 3 to 4 days to get something in really good shape. In the end, I actually ended up doing a lot of the editing myself. As technology improved, it meant you could do a lot more things yourself. And now you can shoot a video on your phone, really. You don't need half the setup anymore. You can create incredible imagery, especially using AI and, and possibilities with that. It's just, it's mind blowing.
Do you feel that the music video is still as important today as it was in the late 70s, 80s, and 90s?
No, not really. I mean, it's important for certain artists. There's different levels of artists, the thing is, we're now flooded with all these kind of different ways of promoting bands. The music video, it does play a part. Got to say, it does play a part, but I don't really do them anymore, to be honest. The budget's just dropped, and the amount of time involved in the project, it's just too time consuming for me anyway. I mean, other people who want to get into that, it's great, but you've got to have them, but I don't think the outlets are there anymore, really. I mean, I suppose it's different. You use them on social media. Back in the day, they were really important. It was a really big deal. Now I don't know that it is, because it's all sort of dissipated. There's so much other stuff going on.
Exactly, because I mean, if you think of it back in the day, when a single or album was coming out, the music video was one of the main points of contact with the artists and the fans. There was interviews on shows, maybe live performances, Top of the Pops, these type of things, Smash Hits magazine, Number One magazine. But it was one of the touch points. But now these days, social media has disbanded the importance of all those various touch points, because the artists can be in touch with the fans all day, every day if they want to.
Yeah, exactly. It's a different industry. It's completely different. I still do some work in it, but I wouldn't say it's my main thing anymore. Really.
Tell us, what are you mainly focused on now?
I'm working in quite a few different fields at the moment. Really.
Okay.
But I think you have to kind of do that in a way. You got to wear quite a few hats if you want to survive in this industry. I've got the commission work is design work. I'm still getting the few music projects, which I'm about to start another quite a big one, and I'm working on an animation series. I'm designing that, funny enough, based around the music industry. So I'm going to be working on all the creative side of it. So that's going on. On a personal note, I mean, I've written several screenplays, one of which we've got rolling at the moment. I mean, it's early days, but that's interesting. It's a feel good film. I always wanted to get into something bigger than just doing music videos as such. So I started writing screenplays. And my main current project is I'm actually taking a screenplay I wrote, my very first screenplay, I'm actually turning it into a novel. I almost got it made, but it didn't happen. That's the whole story in itself. But my father always advised me, because he went into writing novels, and he always said to me, you should be writing novels instead of doing screenplays. I didn't really fancy it, because I just thought I just want to get straight in there, make films. It's all about imagery for me, But he was right. I'm really enjoying the process in a sense. It's a long process, but the thing is, the characters, instead of it being cut down to the shortest possible thing in a screenplay, you really got to it's all about editing and getting that story over. Taken the screenplay that I wrote and I've really expanded on it. And everyone's got backstories, there's depth to the characters, you could really add a lot. And now I think it would make a great film or TV series. You're working backwards now. I've really looked into it, and I've designed the cover, so at least it's got a decent cover on it. Again, hopefully I'm trying to get that finished around all these other projects, but I should hopefully have that done in the next couple of months.
When you started writing screenplays, was it an easy transition? Or did you find it challenging? Obviously, you did storyboards for music videos, but those are much shorter things compared to a long movie. What was the inspiration to say, okay, I want to do this, move into movies, besides the point of just want to do more than music? And was it an easy process to dive into writing screenplays?
Again, it came because I wanted to do something bigger than just music promos. The first screenplay I wrote, which is actually this book, was actually based around, I've done many trips to Jamaica shooting music videos. My friends down there said, we're putting this reggae dance contest together, world reggae dance contest. He said, you should come down. So I came down there with my little video camera this time, and I filmed the whole event. And I came back and I actually thought this could be a great documentary. And I went into the kind of the Gessel area where the winners were, and did some other wrecking while I was there. Anyway, basically, I came back and started writing it as a documentary. But as I was writing it, it turned into a story, because I was planning it shot for shot almost, and it actually started to turn into a story, and it developed into a story rather than being a documentary about this kid, the winner. And so I actually went back out there and did some more research on the project. So I spent a bit of time down there traveling all around the island. And then I came back with some more work on the script. And I turned up to my father's place with the results, which was unbelievably long. It was a never-ending story. And he showed me, because my father was, proper film screenwriter at this point. And we just went through it together, and he showed me how to edit it down and hone it down to a screenplay. So, I started off working in his studio as a kid, and then he showed me how to do art, produce the artwork. And then it's a similar process in a way. He showed me how to write a screenplay. So I got the bug. And then he did say to me at the end, this is the best it gets when we've typed the end, on this thing. And he was right, because it's very hard to get a screenplay made, especially coming at it. If you haven't been commissioned to do it and you just got an idea, it's a really tough ask to kind of get other people involved to back you with their money to do the project. And it took a long time before we found a backup, and I was out there in Jamaica doing all the pre-production. I was out there for weeks doing that, putting it together, but it wasn't the right time to make it for all kinds of reasons. So it never got made. But I put in so much work, really so much work. I just thought, it can't just be wasted. This is such a great story. Like the story really was solid. So I thought I'm going to write it as a novel. And I've written several other screenplays after since. If I can't get them made as movies, then I will write them as novels. You can self-publish it, and somebody will pick them up. What I discovered in the process of trying to get interest in my screenplays is that everywhere I went, there's somebody else, with a screenplay under their arm. When I went to LA for a music project, I thought, I'll go and talk to some film people out there. And even the Uber driver had a great story idea. He'd written one, and I said, oh man, I think that's the right approach for the moment, I just keep moving forward. And it's nice to be able to do that, and that the work wasn't a waste of time as such.
Does having the other projects that you're working on, the album cover designs every now and then and so forth, help you stay motivated compared to if you didn't have those and you were only focusing on the screenplays, trying to get them made and sort of chugging along? By having the other sort of avenues that you're dipping your toes and fingers and working with on the same page allows you to maintain positivity, because it's giving you a focus while you're doing that.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I've always enjoyed creating imagery, or now writing words, which it's all from the same creative source in a sense, So yeah, I mean, I like challenges. I mean, I've also created a range of art images, which I plan to launch this year, which are quite interesting. A lot of them are based around the music imagery, but I just like creating stuff, really, to be honest. And if I can make a living out of that, then I'm happy.
Having been in the industry for a number of years, for any artist who's starting out now, what advice would you give them?
It's tricky because it's a different industry now. I mean, I think you've got to be really proficient in using the technology around you so that you can create whatever you want, especially nowadays. It's the fact that we can almost make our own films from the front room as such, instead of, I mean, that's what I love about technology, how it's not so you're not having to ask permission. So I would say my advice is would be to get really down with the technology and get, really keep up to speed with it. I mean, obviously, you've got to have ideas. If you let AI run with something, it would be it's sort of mediocre-ish, I think, the imagery it produces on its own, but having the right concept behind it is what counts. And it's down to having that, also being able to realize it. It's getting quite exciting really out there,
Bruno, the podcast is listened to throughout the world. As a final message to the audience, what would you like to say?
Watch this space, really. My book will be the next thing to look out for. And I'm very excited about that. That's my own personal project. It will have its own website and all kinds of stuff. I've got all kinds of plans for it. But that excites me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Celeb Savant. Please follow Barrett on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Celeb Savant. That's CelebSavant.